Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We've had some awesome parts roll in for our 1972 Mitchell Motorhome four-wheel drive conversion. These parts are just too awesome not to share with you guys, so we're going to do a quick unboxing video and get some parts installed on this thing that are going to really transform the look of this, so stick around for that. But this project has been really popular on the channel so far, so thank you everyone for the interest in this thing, and thank you for the new viewers here. We've actually eclipsed 12,000 subscribers here on the channel, so that's awesome. Thank you all for that. So if you're new here and you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. You'll get to see more of this 1972 Mitchell Motorhome project. But for now, let's go dig into it. All right, everyone, like I said, we're going to be doing some parts on the motorhome here. Probably you're going to see it in the thumbnail, so you're going to know what I'm talking about. But we're going to get to the big part a little later on in the video. First, I want to fill you in with what I've done. I haven't done much. I did the finish welding on the inner frame boxes on this. In previous videos, I outlined the Kincer four-wheel drive conversion we're doing on this thing. And basically, we are 100% done with the install, or the fabricating part of the install anyway. We have the boxes welded in that go in the frame rails there, and I have everything kind of mocked up here. We have our coil buckets and shock mounts mounted here, and also have the track bar or Panhard bar. Some people call it different names, but that's what that is there. I have that welded in, and I have the bosses for the steering gear all welded in, so that's all finally welded. Mainly the big thing was these frame boxes here are welded 100% all the way around. So those are fully installed. And yeah, we're just moving right along with this project. So we have our big item we're going to do on this truck. I want to get it installed. The front axles here. We're going to be showing that later in the video. I want to get the front axle under this thing so we can move it around, roll it around. And I also want to kind of get a feel for where it's going to sit so we can order shocks and figure out what we have to do on the rear suspension and get it to match the front, because we can't be having the thing sitting like this for very long. We got to get some blocks in the rear and get this thing standing up so we can see the stance of it. But to do all that, I think I want to throw the engine and transmission back in the chassis. I've had it in and out like 10 times now. So what's another one? We're going to get it in there, and I think I'm going to try to get the transfer case that is right there shoved on the back of the transmission and put in here. We'll see how it fits. Hopefully it clears the floor. I'm worried about the floor brace on the inner side of the cab. We'll see that when we get it in there. Hopefully it clears that. I know it's going to be close. Doing some quick measurements, it looks like we're good, but if it's going to have interference, I want to know that now or sooner rather than later, so I can be working on that maybe while other stuff's out to paint, because we're going to be sending the stuff here to paint so we can get painted and look good for final assembly. So I think we're going to try to stab the engine in before we do the front axle, because the front axle is going to be pretty easy and straightforward. And while I'm crawling under the thing, I want to have these my cribbing right here, so I feel safe. So while we're doing the engine install, we're going to do that, and then we're going to yank this cribbing out here and shove the axle into here. So we're just going to be doing some temporary or mock-up install today. Hopefully I can get this thing out of the shop and we'll get a good view at it with the front axle on. That's going to be a really good shot. We've been working on this project for months now, waiting for that view. So I can't wait to see that. But I'm going to get to work, mainly get this engine in here. We've probably seen that a few times on the channel already, but I'll probably do a time-lapse video of me throwing it in so you guys can see that. Hopefully we go on without any hiccups, and we can move on to that front axle. Well, I have the engine and transmission and transfer case installed in the truck. Unfortunately, it didn't go off without a hitch like I was hoping it would. It fought me the entire way going in there. The biggest problem was clearance with the transfer case and the driver's side frame rail. I actually had to notch the frame rail some, which I'll show you in a second when I crawl into the truck. I had to notch the frame rail some to get the transfer case up in there, and I'm actually going to have to notch it some more. So unfortunately, we did have to modify the frame, but I'll be able to strengthen that up there right where we notched it. It'd probably be fine if I didn't, but it just make me feel better to strengthen that up there and give it a little more strength. It is right where the radius arm mount is for our front axle, so there's going to be a lot of stress there on that frame. We'll get it straightened back up, but we have it in place. Basically what it was doing, it was shoving the whole assembly this way, and then my motor mounts wouldn't line up. So had to do a little wiggling there to get it to line up there. Let's see if we can get into the truck here. And right here is where the big clearance issues have. You can see there I cut probably a good 1/2 inch or maybe more out of that, and we still have a little bit we need to take out because it is rubbing, and that's not going to be good. We also have a little bit of clearance issues right there on the floor brace. I knew that was going to be tight, and it is tight up there. It is not touching right now, but I think if you know, with the movement of the engine and transmission and stuff, it will probably rub up there. My Ultimate High Boy does that with the 205, so I kind of knew it was going to be a problem here, but we can cut some of that floor brace out and kind of invert it and give us a little nice pocket there to give us some clearance for the transfer case. But over here on the driver's side frame rail is the biggest problem, but that clearance there is going to make it work there, I think. Once we get everything out of there, I'll take some more out here and make it prettier and kind of clean all that up there. That was just done kind of quickly to get the thing in here. Also, another problem that I kind of knew we were going to run into is our front drive shaft runs right into this factory transmission crossmember. So we're going to have to do something different there. But like I said, I kind of knew that was going to be a problem, and knew we were going to be fighting that. So that's a later down the road problem. For now, I want to get that front axle unwrapped and take a look at it and show you guys. So I'm going to go get that front axle, bring it inside here, and we'll open it up and see what it looks like. All right, here it is. It's all wrapped up, just begging to be unwrapped. I can't wait to see what it looks like. I know it's going to be all black and powder coated and looking nice. We have a big box of parts here. I don't know what's all in there. Pretty sure everything else we need here. So like drag link, tie rod, we need the track bar steel, all that kind of stuff is going to be in this pallet here. So let's go rip it open and see what's in it. All right, guys, moment of truth. Let's open this puppy up, see what we got to work with. Ooh. Oh, look at those wheelwood calipers. I knew they had problems with the brake assembly, getting it to clear with the factory brake setups they were using, so they had to go to a wheelwood caliper to make it work. Ooh. Man, that looks really good. We got our coil buckets here, bump stops. There's our mounts for our radius arms. Yep, we got our tie rod, drag link. Here's our panhard bar or track bar. Man, this is pretty. What we got here? I am not sure. And that's metal. I'm gonna have to get some snippers to get that open. I don't remember what else we are missing. But man, let me get you guys in here to take a look at this axle. I'm just drilling over it. Okay, obviously we are dealing with a third member here. So this is a 9-inch Ford kind of housing, or what they base this axle off. Everything from the outside is all fabricated and custom. And they are using dually adapters here. I can't remember what they ended up going with. This is kind of all their brainchild. I just gave them the measurements from wheel mating surface to wheel mating surface, and they ran with it. So it's going to match the factory track width of the bump side here. And they are, if you see here in the caliper brackets, they did warn me about this. This is a fabricated piece, and they are getting a billet piece made for this, so it's not fabricated, and we're going to do away with these washers. This was kind of a prototype piece to make sure it's going to work. But while they're waiting on that to get designed and machined, we're just using those for now, and they're going to send me that at a later date. But yeah, ooh, look at that logo. This is a really nice piece. I am not used to getting stuff like this crate out of the box like this. I'm used to dirty, grimy, rusty old axles and having to go through them and rebuild everything. So this is really nice and appreciated to have this nice crate axle here to just shove under here and call it good. But let's quit talking and get this thing under this truck. All right, so I've been coming up with a game plan on how to get this front axle under here. I have the link arms all set up here, so that's our lower and that's our upper there. And my original plan was to just take these cribbing out and slide the axle into there with the forklift, but my jack stands that are really holding the weight, this thing's kind of only a safety deal. Those are right in front of our radius arm brackets, so that won't work. So I was like, well, I can just pick it up and move those jack stands to the back, but really those stands are getting pretty far back in the cab, and especially with the engine and transmission in here, I'm just be worried about there being too much weight out here in the front and those jack stands kicking out or something bad happening like that. I just don't want anything like that to happen. So what I came up with is I'm going to scoot this axle as close as I can get and then come in with my forklift and get up under this beam here and pick everything up and then pull the motorhome and everything and then get it lined up over the axle and then set it down. So that was kind of what I came up with. Big long forks on the forklift are pretty handy for that scenario. And also when I put this engine in there, I probably wouldn't have done that if we didn't have such a big forklift. That's an 8,000 pound forklift. And even then, having all that weight way out there on the end of that fork kind of made me nervous, but it seemed to handle it okay. And we'll be yanking it out the same way too, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, just gonna come in, get this axle closer, and then pick up on the whole thing and try to drag it over there, and then we'll line up the link arms and go from there. I want to set the bump, set the frame down and on the bump stops of the axle before we put the coil springs on, so I can measure our shock length. And then once I do that, I'll put the coil springs on and we'll see how this thing's going to set. got the axle under there. If you noticed, I did things a little bit differently. Basically, the problem I ran into was I couldn't get my forks over the axle and under the beam that's up in there in the front, and it was going to cause issues there. So I just went ahead and went through the side and got it snuck in there on the side. I'm going to get the arms in here, our link arms, and I've already made sure that the arms are pretty close. We're not going to be doing any kind of alignment here today. Just as long as it's close, it'll be good enough. Because if they're not the same, the axle's going to be in there all cattywampus. Have my misalignment spacers in the hind joint there. Let's see how close we got. All right, looks like we need to go forward some more. See if I can move this thing. Whoa. That was too much, but surprised I was able to move it that far. Closer. Do just a little bit more. We might have to get our axle a little bit better aligned before we start doing that. Those bushings aren't straight. I'll go mess with the other side and see if we can get it lined up. All right, same story. Axle's got to go forward. This end's a lot lighter because we don't have that third member over here. There we go. See if we can get this one in. Seems like those tabs are just a little tight, which is pretty normal on a fabricated deal. Just something you gotta mess with. Now we gotta get these guys in. Let's see, we should be able to drop them in. Make sure our bushing is lined up there. And like I said, we're not going to worry about caster angle or anything like that because this is purely for mock-up and to get measurements for shocks and stuff like that. But We are awful close here. There's that one. As we go ahead and hook up our track bar. All right, track bar is hooked up. I am going to hook up the other side and we'll see where we can go from there. All right, I have the axle all hooked up with all the links there, so we should be good to go to drop this thing down to measure our shock height here. Basically, all I want to do is close up this gap, get on the bump stop there, and then I'll measure the center to center on our shock mounts, and then I'll know the minimum shock length I need there, so we don't bottom our shock out. You know, so we bottom out on our bump stops and not bottom out on our shock. So I'm gonna get in here at the forklift. I'm gonna pick up on it and remove some blocks and slowly lower it down, and hopefully we don't run into any problems. And make sure everything clears in the process. Should be good to go there, but it's always nice to double check. Looks like everything's good so far. One thing that the axle needs to do while we're going down is it's going to need to slide back and forth because our track bar there is going to make the axle move in an arc, but I just saw that pallet moving a little bit and realized that. I think we're good. It'll probably kind of try to move the body a little bit too as we go. I don't see anything that looks like it's going to interfere with anything, which is good. I just want to make sure nothing's getting in a bind. I don't think it really is, but I'm kind of wondering if we need to adjust our bump stops, because I don't think we're ever going to be that low. I might have to ask them about that. We can space up our bump stops. Let me see where we're at there. 1.5 inches. I'll just go ahead and take a picture of all these measurements so I remember them all. Let's see what our shock's going to be if we stop it here. That's about 16.5. That's good enough. I know we'll be somewhere in that ballpark there, and I'll be able to reference them for shock specs. Go ahead and go back up with it. one of our coil springs here. Let's see how far off we are. Not too far off. Not sure what the deal is there, but I can't get that tab in there. All right, let's see if we can get it down in the pocket this time. All right, we're good there on the passenger side. Looks like we're good here on the driver's side. Let's go down a little bit more. All that looks good. I'm gonna go ahead and put our brackets on before we get too much weight on this thing. I don't think that spring could pop out of there, but I sure don't want to find out. All of this is obviously coming back apart to paint, but I still don't want to have anything happen that I wasn't expecting. All right, got those tabs installed. Now there's no way that the coils could come out. Go ahead and get the weight on the thing. And that's nothing. That's it. All right, well, the coils did fight me a little bit to get, you have to get turned into that tab on that bucket on that axle. They did fight me a little bit going in there, but I did get them in. This side was the problem child. The passenger side actually went together, so probably just a manufacturing defect in the spring. It's probably a little bit too wide in the bottom. That's kind of the problem I was running into, is biting into the weld that was on that bucket. But we got it in there. We got the weight on the axle for the first time. I guess next step's going to be to pick it up. I got to figure out a way to pick this thing up, get it off the pallet, and get our wheels on this thing so we can roll it outside and see what it looks like. And then we're going to be trying to figure out what size blocks we need for the rear and figure something out there. But next step, I guess, is going to be get some tires on this thing. All right, guys, I got the wheels and tires on it, or at least the ones that it came in on. This thing is actually getting some new wheels and some BF Goodwrench tires I like to run. Those are not here yet, but they are going to look awesome on this thing. These are just the stock ones, or not the stock ones, I guess, the ones that were on it originally when it came in as a two-wheel drive. So it's getting a little bit taller tire, but it looks pretty cool with the tires on it. Kind of gives us an idea of how it's going to sit. Obviously, it is raked back because our back end is still down at two-wheel drive level. But this thing's going to be off the ground pretty far and have a nice stance there, I think. It is obviously going to come down a little bit, probably quite a bit actually, because we're missing a ton of weight up here on the front end between the turbo, the hood, the fenders, inner fenders, all the cooling system, radiator, all that stuff's going to weigh this thing down. And we're going to put a winch bumper on the front of this thing with a winch. So definitely going to add some more weight to the front end. It's going to bring it down probably an inch or two at the minimum. But I want to get this thing outside and get some good pictures of it, get a good look at it on the outside. And I want to try to pick up the rear end if we can, to try to get an idea of where this thing's going to need to be set level. Obviously, I can't just make it level the way it is now because we're going to be setting lower on the front end. But I might throw some weights on the front end to try to get it to settle down some more and just get a ballpark measurement for the rear end. You know, I'm kind of guessing we're going to need about a 4-inch block, much like a highboy. These are their factory highboy stance level of springs, so they have lower than a highboy, or higher than a highboy. This is kind of the middle of the road, so we thought we'd try that one first. It's probably going to set a little bit lower than a factory highboy because we have the added weight of a diesel here. But we'll just see. If we put a 4-inch block in the rear, it's a little bit higher in the rear, that will be just fine. That's kind of the way they set from the factory. And then if he hooks a trailer on the back, it'll kind of level it out, hopefully. But let's get this thing outside and just see what it looks like so we can stand back and look at it a little bit more, instead of we're kind of packed in tight here in the shop. So I'm going to get it outside. All right, guys, it's out of the shop for the first time being 4-wheel drive. This thing's gonna sit really awesome. The stance is perfect. I like how it's gonna be sitting. I don't have the back end up quite as high as it needs to be. I'm just gonna be picking up the back end, and I don't really wanna be doing that. But I am gonna measure and get a ballpark for the blocks, like I said. But just take a look at the stance on this thing. We have a lot of room. Of course, this isn't flat right here. I don't have very good flat parking right outside the shop. So it's kind of low right there in the center. But if you look a straight line across here, those tires are going to be a little bit lower. And like I said, it's going to be like a 33-inch tire on this thing. So it's going to be pretty mean looking with the stance being 4-wheel drive. And you get a nice view of that radius arm and the Kincer mounts right there. So this thing's going to look awesome once it's completed. Overall, I'm really happy with the front axle and the Kincer 4-wheel drive kit. This thing has gone together really smooth. Like I said, we have a few hiccups, but some of that can be attributed to prototyping, and some of that can be attributed to just normal assembly problems you run into with just anything. But overall, this kit has gone together really smooth. I'm really happy with it. And I think I want to do a Kincer Chassis 4-wheel drive conversion on my red Rangoon Red 67 over there in the future sometime. Maybe once we get the 67 crew cab project off to paint, and I need something to tinker on, we might be doing a little build on that red truck. I don't know if we're going to be doing like a full-blown Kincer axle and everything on it. We might be doing kind of a low buck version of this, where we use kind of their parts and put together my own axle or something. I don't know. I have to talk to the guys over there and see what they would want to do. But I am so happy with the way this kit's going together. I want to do something else with it on one of my personal projects. So that'll be going on down the road if you're interested in more content on this Kincer stuff. So overall, I give this thing a A+ on the Kincer 4-wheel drive kit, since we're pretty much done with it at this point. Next step's going to be blow it all apart after I make sure I get all the measurements and everything I need to while we have it together. But I'm going to blow it all apart. The coil buckets, the cross members, the engine mounts, all that kind of stuff, and the inner fenders and core support are going to go to my sandblaster and get sandblasted and painted. Hopefully they can get that done for me in a timely manner. I know they have a turnaround at the refinery coming up. I want to try to get these parts to them before that, so hopefully we can get them back in a timely manner. But in the meantime, while that's going to happen, we're going to be painting the frame. We're going to be doing a painting everything that we welded in, obviously the bare metal, and we're going to be trying to clean up the frame underneath this thing as best we can. Obviously, we can't take the camper and everything off of this thing to fully redo the frame like I would want to, but we're gonna be doing that, and we're gonna be setting up the rear end so it's matching the front end, and going through that Dana 70, maybe adding disc brakes to the rear if I can make them fit with the dually wheels, and checking that rear end out, make sure it's good to go for all the towing and fun adventures that this thing is gonna have in its future ahead. So if you guys want to see that and see me get the 7.3 Power Stroke running in here, hit the subscribe so you can see all those videos coming up on this rig. Like this video if you like this truck. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.